whatever room you're in, so that the images themselves can really shine on the screens. All right, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get started. All right, did that work? No. Oh, Mr. Rogers, you got to let me share my screen.
Got it. Got it.
All right. There it is. All right, cool. Thank you. All right. So today we're speaking with Andrew Hara. Andrew Hara's photography is relentless in the pursuit of capturing distinctive images of planet Earth. Andrew's a graduate of the Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, California, where he earned a photography and digital image degree with honors in 2009. After architectural, forensic, and fine art photography work with mainland business, government agencies, and the American Institute of Architecture, he returned home to Hawaii Island to reconnect with his birthplace, to apply his education and expertise to serve the arts and progressive sciences, including environmental conservation and sustainability. Hara's current client list includes, includes National Geographic Society, NASA. He's working with the Department of Defense, Vanity Fair, BBC, Time Magazine, United States Geological Survey, the Hawaiian Volcanoes Observatory, Four Seasons, the Keck Observatory, and those are just a few of his clients. And you're looking at some of his images just to warm things up here. Additionally, Andrew is a good friend of mine. We've been on all sorts of adventures on this big island as well as on the mainland. And I'm really, really happy to introduce Andrew Hara. So good morning, Andrew. Why don't you start by just kind of telling us about yourself, where you're from, and what you do?
Yeah, good morning. Hey, Pat. How's it going? Or Mr. C. Yeah, my name's Andrew. I'm born and raised in Hilo, Hawaii. I went to school in Waikea High, and I never thought I would be where I am today, you know, working in photography. I used to have a electrical engineering passion in high school, taking elective courses, and realized that I wanted to not be behind a desk. So I chose to go into a different path in the creative arts, and art was always a passion of mine. And I guess luckily had found my way into creative arts as a career path. So I went to school to do that and studied in San Francisco and Los Angeles, and yeah, here I am today. It's been 10 years been back at home, and it's great.
Awesome. So today what we're really going to focus on, Andrew and everybody else, is we're going to be talking about the volcano. And I think one of the interesting things about the volcano is about 2 years ago, we saw some really exciting activity there. And so I want to start us off with a little video to get things started. So here's what you're gonna do in your huis, or if you're at home or whatever. Zoom's not so great if I show the video and then screen share it. So I'm gonna stop screen sharing for a moment. But instead, I'm gonna put the link to the video in the chat. I've emailed it to all of your hui teachers, and you guys are gonna take the next, I think it's about like 6 minutes long. Is that about right, Andrew? 5 or 6 minutes, something like that?
Yep, 6 minutes long.
So take about 5 or 6 minutes, watch the video, and then we're all going to come back, and then we'll continue the conversation. So I'll put the link in the chat right now. For those of you who are at home, it is. Oops. We're at. Okay, there's the link for all of you guys who are at home.
The link isn't working.
Okay, gonna get a new link. Stand by. Stand by. Here's the link.
Try just copying and pasting
It worked for me.
and then put in your browser.
Yeah, try copying and pasting. I'll put another link in there too, guys. Here's the second link. Both will work.
So one or two people just joined. I just want to make sure that they see the link there. I'm putting it once more. So if you just joined this, we are getting on this link and watching this video, which is about 6 minutes long, and then coming back to the Zoom.
All right, I think we're probably all done at this point. Anybody else out there? Just give me a wave if you need more time. I'm not seeing any waves. Awesome. Great. All right, so I'm gonna go back to sharing my screen and we'll get back into this now. So that footage is yours, Andrew. And if I'm not mistaken, this was years ago during the Fissure 8 Leilani eruptions. Kind of tell us a little bit about how you ended up being there these 100 days and that experience. What was this like?
Yeah, it's a kind of interesting story. I think it's pretty funny actually. Not the eruption, but just how it happened. I was going to my friend's house for a jewelry shoot because they were like making silver jewelry, and so they were like, "Oh, you should come down to Puna, take some photos of the jewelry, can have lunch or whatever." So I drive down there. There was a big earthquake the day before, but well, it's Hawaii, So I'm driving down, and my friends, they call me when I'm going down into Leilani Estates, and everything looks fine. And they're like, I think we're gonna have to reschedule our photo shoot because there's steam in our backyard. It just doesn't look right. And I was like, no, I'm almost there. And I worked for the Volcano Observatory, so I always have a respirator in my car. And so I'm like, I got a respirator, I got 2, so we're good, and just in case. And then they call me 3 minutes later and they go, we're evacuating our house. There's cracks in the backyard. There's sulfur coming out of the ground. There's rumbling. We're leaving with our baby. I was like, okay, cool. I step out of my car. I'm like, are you guys okay? And as soon as I open my car door and I look to my left, there's Fissure 1 in Mohola Street in Leilani Estates, and it's shooting spurts of lava and gas out of the asphalt. And I said, yeah, you better leave now. I got to call you back. I have to make some calls. But it was just me and the county of Hawaii worker guy. And he's like holding a traffic cone, right? He's like, I'm like, can I go over there? He's like, I don't know. And so I just went.
That's great.
Yeah.
So some of the questions that came in while people were watching this, one of them was, there's these massive lava fountains. And so the question was, how high are these shooting up in the air? And I guess tell us about it. Are you feeling the heat coming off of this thing? Is it shooting that high in the air? What's that like?
Yeah, I mean, like the cover photo here, Fissure 8, at the highest point, it was about 400 feet. And so you're looking up and we're pretty close to it. There's cinder raining from the air. So I'm wearing a full face respirator. So cinder's hitting my visor and my respirator, and it's just raining from the air. It's hot. You can feel the thermals coming. The ground is hot. Your soles of your feet are sweating because the ground, your soles you're sort of melting sometimes. But yeah, extremely acidic. Like if it rained when I was in that area, my skin would be itchy and it would be sore from the acid rain, the sulfuric acid. My car rusted immediately. My camera gear got destroyed. Extremely hot too.
Yeah. And then one person had the courage to ask the question that everybody wants to know, which is, what happens if you fall into the lava?
Yeah, good question. Well, no one did, thankfully. What happens is lava has the thickness or viscosity like toothpaste. So imagine when you're squeezing out this toothpaste, that's pretty much what lava would be like in terms of texture. So what happens when your skin contacts the lava, because you have moisture on your skin, it evaporates, just like the stove if you pour water on it. So that's called the lead-in frost effect. So if you actually touch the skin to lava really quickly, you will get burned, but not necessarily as bad because of this frosting effect. So what happened was 1960, this geologist, George Ulrich, he had stepped on a Pahoehoe shelf and fell in, and his leg got stuck in lava. And surprisingly, with a lot of force, these geologists pulled him out, and as the lava cooled, they cracked it and opened the shell, and he had 3rd-degree burns, but his leg was fine. So lava kind of cools like glass. So as soon as it hits an object, it kind of freezes around it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So one of the things that's really noticeable in a lot of the footage and that, as well as some of the pictures we're going to look at, is this idea of creation and destruction. And it's really clear to see the destructive power of this volcano through your pictures, especially in Leilani Estates and that community down there. But it's also, it feels as if you're trying to capture this idea of creation that the volcano brings at the same time. What do you think about this idea of creation and destruction in relationship to the volcano?
Yeah, well, like this image of Halemaumau crater, it's been active since we could record volcanoes, and settlers were here to recite shared vocal stories and written language. And so there's a part of watching this island grow. We're in the middle, 2,000 miles in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, on one of the most active volcanoes on Earth. And so there's a part where I think it's a reminder that we are living on a growing piece of landmass. And at the same time, we are we're living on this island as a community. And there are things that will happen because we live next to a volcano. And so homes will be destroyed and roads will extend 15 feet like this picture shows in Leilani Estates.
Yeah.
I think that's it. It tells something about the type of people that live here. You know, we as a community, that we're inspired and maybe mesmerized and also a little bit terrified by it, but we still live here. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree. And it's there's also this idea of impermanence, you know, that you kind of have to, you're forced into when you live here, this idea that it's wonderful to have everything, but at the same time understanding that the island you're living on, like you said, is super active, and that perhaps although those things could go away at the same time. This is a particularly striking image. Kind of tell us what we're looking at, because it feels like it's a real like green belt and then lava.
Yeah, so a part of Leilani Estates in the fissure eruption, the lava channels that went down were about 13 miles wide in square. Yeah, it was 13 square miles. So this lava channel is 13 miles long, headed towards Mackenzie State Park. And so what you're seeing here is the green side of Puna. And everyone thinks of Puna as like this lush, wet forest. And so everything south of there, to the left of this photo of the channel, became dark gray brown, and that's just from the volcanic gas. So sulfur dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, H2S and SO2, steam and particulate matter like ash and Pele's hair just covered this land. And so in the matter of like 2 to 3 days, land went from green, completely green, to crispy brown. Like the grass, I remember you could step on it and the grass and the leaves, you could just snap it in half. I've never seen that before.
We have a quick question, a technical question. Mr. Wonderbaum wants to know about the specifications of your telephoto lenses. What do you use?
Oh, specifications. Telephoto lenses, I use 70 to 200 millimeter. I have a 24 to 105 millimeter. I've got a 16 to 35 millimeter. Wide range from 11 millimeters all the way to 400.
Awesome.
So this is flying in the air in a helicopter at 9,000 feet.
Wow. So the other thing I wanted to ask you, and looking at, again, now this is kind of a little bit closer of a look, right? So we have a community and maybe it looks like a farm perhaps, and you can see that the river of lava is going right past it. And
right.
There's an emotion behind this picture. You can see there's excitement with this lava, but at the same time, obviously there's people whose homes are being destroyed, lost. And there's an emotional power within this picture. And it feels like you're capturing something bigger than just the geology that's happening. I'm wondering if you can maybe give us a little bit of context of like the experience from like a more of an emotional or a spiritual perspective, maybe even some context of Pele with around the volcano and activity. And did you capture anything beyond the moment, beyond the geology?
Sure, yeah. I think the entire experience of photographing the eruption was not about science. It was, but it was more about this uh, awe-inspiring, terrifying, life-threatening, but beautifully, confusingly incredible scene. There's
Yeah.
too many words. There's so many commas that I would use to describe this eruption. Like in this photo, we have people's homes burning. We have a geothermal plant surrounded by two lava eruptions, four fissures in the backyard that consumed homes that were 80 feet below at that point. Um, Flying in the air, and then watching the earth repave basically this entire community with new lava. Um, Incredible, but
Yeah.
also heartbreaking. It really hard to describe. You know, I would say that I cried religiously throughout this whole thing because I just didn't know how to process it.
Yeah.
Um, I I always had felt like someone was there. There was always a presence, like you know when um, you're somewhere in school or at home and someone's like drilling the back of your head with eyes. That's how I felt like all the time. Like I felt very naked. I felt very vulnerable, scared, but
Yeah.
also at the same time, I felt called to be there.
Sure.
And there's a lot of times where I was the only one standing in it, and then a fissure would open up in the ground, and trees would fall right in front of me, and I came unscathed from this
Yeah.
entire event.
So, I also want to ask you. So, we do have a lot of new families at Parker, and for those who don't really know a lot of the folklore, can you give us a little bit of the context? So, you mentioned Hale Ma'u, Pele, and all the different. Kind of give us what is some of the Hawaiian significance of the volcano?
Yeah, so the ropiness of this lava, it's called Ropi Pahoi Hoi. There's a lot of like stories of Pele and like her hair, right? The braiding of hair. So in this image, like you can see almost like a feminine form or texture in there. Hale Ma'u Ma'u is House of the Eternal Fire or House of the Ama'u Fern. I like the first one a lot better. But Pele resides in the House of Fire. She and her sister Hi'iaka and Pele used to reside in Mauna Kea. They had a big fight, which ice was thrown and fire was also erupted out of the ground. And this is also a story about how Mauna Kea erupted 10,000, 100,000 years ago, and had these glacial eruptions. And so there's like ice and lava coming out, and there's explosions because of the massive heat chain exchange. And so after the fight, Pele had resided in Hale Ma'u Ma'u and Hi'iaka on the summit. And so there's this interplay with Hawaiian gods and goddesses. And so Pele being one here, some people say that there is another figure, Aila Au, who was a part of the more destructive forces. He was called the Forest Eater, and he would come and consume forests with fire. I'm not sure about that, but yeah, the mythology is there.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm loaded with the mythology, so I always feel it or I think of it, but I swear I've seen like silhouettes of her. I've heard a woman's voice while it's like erupting, like all the time, actually. And a lot of my friends who I met and were there had said the same.
Well, I'm glad you brought up some of those friends. I love this picture too. Just there used to be a road, not anymore. No, it's not a small patch. There's one of those massive fountains as well. And so I'm glad you brought up some of those friends. And I was looking through your entire portfolio, and there's a lot of people who are there as well. So a lot of people immediately had to leave. And I want to hear some of those stories, but a lot of people were drawn to it just as yourself, as this is a once in a lifetime opportunity and an experience. And so my question I have for you is, with these different faces that you see, if they're photographers, citizens, scientists, and military, can you speak to the scale of community support? And then how does this align with the idea of kuleana, the value of kuleana?
Mm. Yeah, good question. I emotionally would have not made it through the eruption if I wasn't with friends or people that I could trust. There are times like my friend Nicolette here, her house got surrounded by two lava rivers, two lava channels, and she couldn't return home for about a year, even after the eruption. And so we would go out, it's kind of as therapy for her and also for me to go and photograph this lava from like landlocking her house. But the sense of kuleana and like the firefighters, so I work with the Hawaii Fire Department, and they help me to get access in safe areas. And you know, I was documenting these people and figures that represented such a strong resilience within the community. You know, like these guys are braving their lives to go and record lava activity so that people can stay safe, or they're evacuating people's homes and their belongings. The National Guard, they did an incredible job so that everyone stayed safe, and the looting and all of that, the other crime that was occurring was down to a minimum. And without all of the police and the fire and the National Guard and the rest of the community feeding thousands and thousands of plates of food to people who have been displaced from the lava, we would have been in bad shape. But I think that's a testament to what living in Hawaii is like, the culture here. We take care of people without a doubt. Like, and so one of the things that was the most important thing for me before I was photographing anything, that when the eruption started, was I went out and I helped people evacuate 100 cattle in their backyard from Noni Farms Road before the lava came and destroyed their homes, or baby pianos in people's homes, or, you know, we ferried goats with a Nissan Sentra to get him out of a farm. We went on a chicken rescue for 3 chickens from my friend because he just loves animals. But we did that for an afternoon. But it was all about just making sure that we as a community were thoughtfully supporting each other in ways that we could. My friend Jason Twolman, he lives in the middle of Puna. He still lives in this house with the behind him, and he's crazy. But you know, there is a camaraderie when there's a traumatic or an extreme event that I was really surprised at, and very proud of saying that I'm so glad that this happened here. And I don't know if we would have reacted the same anywhere else in the world.
Yeah. So this question just came in, and I have the same one. The question is, how much was lost? Like, how many houses were lost, and maybe speak to the scale of the impact of the eruption.
Yeah, there were. It's recorded that there are 700 homes that were lost, but the actual amount, that, because there's so many unpermitted homes there, is about 1,200. There were about 2,000 people displaced. People were living in gyms at the Puna Community Center for 6 months, homeless, basically, without any belongings. Yeah, the impact was just immense, you know. A lot of people couldn't return home because their entire neighborhood was covered in cinder from Fissure 8, or their homes were lost. You know, some of the homeowners, like the homeowner at Fissure 8, they emailed me and they wanted a photo of their home before it got taken over by Fissure 8. That was very touching.
Yeah. I remember while it was active, I would watch the news every night. And I remember there was one resident of Leilani Estates who was being interviewed, whose home was, they lost their home. And the person, the newscaster was saying, you know, kind of tell us your story. And they said, well, I bought this home with plans to retire in it, thinking I could have 40 to 50 years, and I only got 20. And there was this moment of balancing, like, it almost felt like they knew it was coming. It was an impending activity. What do you know about that? How can you explain how these people knew that this was a possibility living where they did?
It's a gamble. You're living on the East Rift Zone, most active rift zone in the United States, let alone some in the world. So your houses are extremely cheap, very, very affordable. You can build a home there with land for $50,000 if you wanted to. But you can't insure your home. Um, everything that you do will in bold say that this is a hazardous area. There has been an eruption here from 1960 from the Kilauea Eruption. And so I think there is a gamble where it's a good deal to live somewhere in a rural community that's affordable, but it also comes at a price.
Yeah,
like living in Waimea, you live on one of the oldest volcanoes,
Right.
Kohala, 750,000 to 850,000 years old. That's almost 1,000,000 years more than Kilauea.
Right. So I do, I look through your photos. It's easy to see your inquisitiveness, your curiosity, but you also brilliantly capture beauty in this moment of chaos and somewhat destruction. So how do you balance that capturing of a moment with also capturing its beauty? Do you see beauty in the volcano? And we'll take a look at some of these beautiful pictures as you talk.
I think I would be lying if I said it wasn't beautiful. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. But I think as a photographer, you have a responsibility to also observe and record and tell a story that is complete. So alongside the beauty, it is also sad sometimes. It is also confusing or emotional. And I think I help explain that or express that in photography where you can have two feelings at the same time. You can have these complex feelings of sadness and happiness or shock and awe, or I think we have all experienced those things where I feel happy, but I shouldn't, or I feel excited, but I should be sad. Those things can happen all the time. And I think we get stuck sometimes with that, and so like this eruption, shock and awe, sadness and beauty, all of those things combined, the melting pot.
So we have a strong arts program at Parker, and I have a question coming in from someone. They're curious about like when you take a picture, what is your approach? What is your do you have the same approach every time you take a picture? What's your mindset? How do you kind of walk us through your process?
Sure, yeah. It's all about feeling. The composure part is really easy. There's if you read about composure, it's like the thirds, the rule of thirds. You break up an image by thirds, vertically and horizontally, and you try to frame your subject in there. Pretty cool. But you just look visually, like, does that look good? I'll move it down, move it up. So that part is real technical, and you can kind of figure that part out well. But it's mostly about the feeling. Like I wanted to convey like the feeling of like this moving lava river, this channel. The lava gator that I called. And so like, how do you know how to blur the lava? Like that's through experience. Like I know I'm gonna probably have to run this exposure at 3 seconds so that the lava channel blurs. And then this little boulder is gonna be turning in the lava. And a lot of it is just experience. And so, anybody that's interested in art in general, just do a lot of art. Just be passionate about it and just try things out and fail and fail and fail. And there's a lot of gems in there.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I like this picture. There's no way that this person is not feeling the radiation from this lava, right? It's got to be cooking. And I would imagine you're also very hot where you're taking this picture.
Yeah. My camera shut off. I never knew it had a thermal warning, and it said too hot, shutting down. Never knew. Jim's a little crazy. Jim is a former Navy SEAL trainer, and I didn't even know what he does, but he's like, yeah, I'm gonna just go a walk over there. I'm like, dude, be careful. He's like, oh, whatever, but I know he's extremely skilled to be able to do that, but his arm hair was gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So imagine like you opening up an oven when you're baking cookies, and it's like almost too hot, and then just multiply that by this channel was maybe 20 feet away, and I couldn't even open my eyes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Somebody just asked the question of how many photos don't work before you get to the one photo that does work?
Well, I just took photos of Mauna Kea yesterday on Mauna Loa, shooting Mauna Kea, and I shot about 400 and I only got 2. You know, this eruption, I shot 60,000 images and I have probably 200 portfolio pieces.
Wow.
This one's special. This is actually from the Kamukuna eruption in 2017. So not the fissure eruption, but I particularly like this image because it was on a boat. I was throwing up, you know, it's terrible. But there was this moment where the light came out and I was like, it just stopped me. And I was like, this is it.
Right.
And there's a moment where there's clarity and you go, wow. And you just take a moment, you know?
Sure, sure. So there are, okay, real quick question coming from another class before we jump into the next one is,
Sure.
How do you get permission to get that close to take these pictures? So how did you gain access?
How did I gain access? I volunteered my time to drive to people's homes who didn't live in Leilani estates to document their homes for their insurance and documentation purposes. I helped to evacuate people's belongings in their homes. And with that, I asked if I could take some photos while I'm doing that. And that was the only way I was able to get into Leilani estates because it was so locked down. Things like this, I'm on photo shoots that I pay for a boat ride or helicopter stuff. It's just a part of how much, you know, the photo shoot costs and the budget. But a lot of it is just partnerships too that I've built throughout the course of being back at home for 10 years. And I work with people to get material that they want, and then I get stuff that I want, and it kind of works out.
Somebody wants to know if you've almost died taking any of these pictures.
Yes. Twice. One time I walked into a ravine like this, maybe four feet deep, you know, grass and a little bit of trees. Looks like any normal scene that you would see, except sulfur dioxide, SO2, it sinks heavier than air. So in this pocket was an SO2 pocket and it's completely invisible. I stepped down into this pocket and my respirator was caught in my carabiner. And as soon as I went down, my lungs started asphyxiating, and asphyxiation, you can't breathe. So you're like choking, you're like, and so I'm like out of breath. I have to get my respirator untangled. I have to put it on, and then I have to exhale all of the air I have left in my body to clear the mask so I can breathe in. I almost thought I was going to die. I went home that day. It was scary.
We have another question about your process when you take pictures. And it's, in most of these photos, how filtered or after affected are the photos?
Some are more than others. You know, the colors are there, but I will adjust them to have more saturation or a different feel. I've had comments in the past where they're like, well, it looks a little fake, and that's true. Some of it is a little bit manipulated, but the point of my work comes from my fine art work. And the statement that I have about my work is, I'm not talking about, a lot of the times I'm talking about accuracy of an image, but a lot of the other times it's just an interpretation of what something visually feels like and the colors that represent that.
Right. Okay, let's get into current activity. Our volcano had taken a little nap for 2 years and it's back, baby. So
sleepy time, woke up.
Sleepy time is over. So what can you tell us about that's happening at the Summit of Kilauea?
Well, yeah. Summit of Kilauea is unlike anything before. There was a large catastrophic collapse that sent the crater down 2,000 feet deep. And then it filled back with water to a slight degree, and which was unrecorded at the time, right? No water has ever intruded into Halemaumau crater in written history. And it was actually a part of the mo'olelo, the spoken word of Hawaiian language, that there's levels of pele. And so one of the levels is that Kilauea would collapse, and then following that would be water would intrude into the crater. And then another one would be that the crater would begin to fill with lava again. So it's kind of trippy that this mo'olelo is actually coming true. But now we have currently an an eruptive event that is filling the crater. I forgot how many Olympic swimming pools it is now, but USGS had stated that if the current activity continues, that we will, by the end of February, see lava spill over the edge. And that is a lot of lava.
Wait, say that one more time. Say that one more time.
So by the end of February, it is estimated that the lava level in the crater will rise up and spill over the edge. And
Like
so
the top of Halemama?
not the top. So
the bottom drop. Yeah.
So the caldera is like this, right? Caldera goes in, and then Halemama is here.
Yeah.
So it filled to the Halemama's brim into the caldera.
Wow.
That has never happened before. Because if that happens, then Halemama crater doesn't exist anymore.
Wow. That's pretty incredible. You used to be able to hike down onto that shelf that you're talking about. I think they've stopped that. I probably can't get too close at all. Anyhow, the questions are coming in. Are we in danger? Do we need to be worried? How long is this going to take? Everybody's curious. Give us some sort of a prediction, or can you?
All I can predict is that the gas is going to continue. The eruption is probably going to continue. Are we in danger? I don't think we are in danger. Shield volcanoes, they erupt at a very different than any other volcano like Mount Etna or Mount St. Helens, which is a pyroclastic flow. So, the conical shape of the volcano like this, an explosion, that doesn't happen with shield volcanoes. Shield volcanoes, they spurt and then they go over the edge, spurt, go over the edge. So that's why our volcanoes are very wide and very flat compared to, say, seeing the Grand Tetons or stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So the only hazards that we know to date would be earthquakes, gas. There could be an explosive event, maybe if the lava hits the water table, but it did when the lava had began to resupply in the chamber in December 23, and only had big steam. So I think we're pretty safe. I wouldn't be in Hilo if I wasn't.
Yeah, I think we're all pretty safe too. Well, I do want to leave plenty of time if anybody wants to ask any questions.
Sure.
So I'll leave it up there too. But I also just want to say thank you so much for giving us these awesome stories and these awesome pictures. Andrew and he's been an awesome friend and just sharing these stories with me for pretty much the entirety of my residency here, which has been a couple of years now. And
it's been fun, man.
It's always fun.
Yeah.
And what I do know about you is that this is just one of the many adventures that you get to go on. And so That's true. Definitely want to hear more. And I'd love to have you come back maybe next year or something and continue to tell us some of the stories and adventures that you're going on.
Yeah, let's do a field trip.
Yeah, when we can field trip again. Exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, I got 2 minutes, so I'm going to call it early. I know everybody loves it to be dismissed early.
All right.
So thank you very much, Andrew.
Thank you very much, everybody.